Om Yasmajjatam Jagat Sarvam Yasminyeva Praliyate Yenetam Daryate Chaiva Tasmai Jnanatmane Namaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Taitiriyakasarasya Maya Charya Prasadataha Ispashtartharuchinam hi Vyakyeyam Sampraniyate. Om Shanno Mitrasham Varunaha Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnururukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadvaktaram avatu Avatu mam Avatu vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Sahano Yashaha Sahano Brahma Varchasam Atatas Sagumhitaya Upanishadam Ya Akyasyamaha Panchaswadhikaraneshu Adhilokamadijyotishamadi Vidyamadi Pratamadhyatmam Tamaha Sagumhita Itya Chakshate Atadhilokam Prithivipurvarupam Dhyauruttararupam Akashasandihi Vayusandhanam Ityadhilokam Atati Jyotisham Agnifpurvarupam Aditya Uttararupam Apasandihi Vaidyutasandhanam Ityadi Jyotisham Atadi Vidyam Acharya Purvarupam Antevasyuttararupam Vidya Sandihi Pravachanagum Sandhanam Ityadi Vidyam Atadhiprajam Matah Purvarupam Pitottararupam Praja Sandihi Prajananagum Sandhanam Ityadhiprajam Atadhyatmam Adarahanuf Purvarupam Uttarahanuruttararupam Vak Sandihi Jihva Sandhanam Ityadhyatmam Iti Mamaha Sagumhitaha Yayeva Meta Mahasagumhita Vyakhyata Veda Sandhiyate Prajaya Pashubihi Brahmavarchasena Nadyena Suvargena Lokena. So this is what we are going to see today. I just recited the Samhitopasana which we are going to see today. Actually last class when we met, after the Shanti Pata, we saw the Siksham Vyakyasyam, the science of phonetics is what we saw last class. And if you ask me what is the most important implication of that, is not to learn with a cassette. Because one Udhata becomes Anudhata. I gave an example. How Tatpurusha Samasa becomes a Bahuvrihi Samasa. So by learning like this, assuming I am now making a japa, let me kill myself for 100 times, what will happen? Because the Swara, if it goes one way or the other, it has counter meaning. That's why I wanted to Indra Shatru, that example I gave. So this has a way of learning. So I think most of us today, we not able to find that environment to learn. That is what I am trying to say. I think people try to use a cassette, don't do all that, because they are all very counterproductive, because everything has a meaning. And the meaning, if it is wrong, we are doing a very futile thing. I think to me, that's the most important implication of that, first Anuvag that we saw, which is Siksha, discussion on the Varna, Swara, Matra, Balam and so on. Today we will get into, in fact in this chapter, first chapter of Taittiriya Upanishad has several upasanas. See, the word upasana, we use it in our common parlance. We say somebody is a Devi Upasaka, somebody is a Shiva Upasaka, Vishnu Upasaka. We use this word that he is an Upasaka and Upasana. This word is very commonly used. Now, Taittiriya Upanishad first chapter has upasanas, 5 sections. In today's section alone there are 5 upasanas, but there are 5 sections like that. So there is a reason for it, and therefore we must, before we see, it's easy to see the English meaning, there is no charm in it. We will have to really get to the root of what is behind all this. So before we see the meaning for all these, we have to understand what is this upasana. And today we have a Samhita Upasana. So now we have to define Samhita and Upasana and all that. I think we should first get this clear. Only then it makes sense. The rest are all very straightforward, simple things. So what is this Upasana? Recall my opening remarks in Upanishad. What is the central issue in the Upanishad? We are trying to use Indriyas. We are using our faculty. Seeing, hearing, Sparsha, Sabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. We are trying to use our Indriyas, and the subject matter is beyond Indriyas. Look at the central problem here. I said Upanishad's subject matter is who, not what or how. If you want why, what and how, use all your Indriyas. That is what the outside world is. Upanishad's subject matter is not what, why, or it is about who. And if you remember, I said you cannot use your normal faculty. Then the question is, then where are we going to go? Are we in a dead end? So the basic question is, so it actually leads us to a very interesting question. The question is, if there is something which is not available for many reasons, either it is too large, it is beyond our Indriya. The subject matter I am talking about is beyond the Indriyas. You can't use your Indriyas and get it. Things which you cannot get out of your Indriyas, things which are inaccessible, things which are too large so you can't comprehend. Question is, how are we going to develop an understanding? Traditional science will not discuss this, because this is not a problem. But in Vyavahara we have used it. I will give several examples. So the question is, how am I going to chart onto something which is unknown with no faculty with me, or with faculty with me which is of no use? This is the central problem. So we need some techniques, or we need some ways. Think about this issue. Actually 10 years back, more than 10 years, 97 I think, I invited Rakesh Sharma, who went to the space, the only Indian who went to the space. I invited him, and through some contact I had an IBM program, and then he brought him here. He said that we were asking him to recollect his space journey, and he said, I will not talk about the space journey, that was a few short this thing, but I will tell you what happened 18 months before that. For example, he said for 3 months he was kept upside down, because the zero gravity, this blood circulation, everything has to change. In preparation for that space journey, it was so interesting, scary at one level, but so interesting and thoughtful at another level. He explained several things. He says, my body, if it is not prepared for all these, I will never be able to make this journey to the space. So 18 months, what did he go through? Zero gravity walking was 5 months. He said it's the most difficult thing. First, your body has to be prepared for a zero gravity. That's where he was actually, he will be put in a chamber and he will be turned like this and kept for some 12 hours, 6 hours. So it was such a scary description that he made. Why I am saying this, this is one. So what are we saying here? To reach a certain level, there is a preparation required. This is why I am saying this. So our problem is very similar. We want to understand something and we need a preparation. Person who wants to win an Olympic, why go that far? I gave this example. You want to do a parikrama of Kailash Mansarovar, you have 6 months training. In fact, one of my relatives said, she is about 62. She said, I want to run a marathon, 10K marathon in May. Every Sunday she is running now. So even we need such preparation. The point is, everything requires preparation. So here what is the preparation? To access something which is inaccessible, to comprehend something with a faculty which you don't have. So this is a very difficult problem. Our ancestors have thought about it. So that is where they have brought a technique called Upasana. So we need to understand what is this Upasana. So we'll take some simple examples, and through that we will understand, because we use Upasana in a big way in our daily life. Maybe we don't think about it. So the question is, how can I comprehend something which is too big, which is incomprehensible with my available faculty, or inaccessible, but I want to still understand it? We'll take some example. How do we pay our respect to India? This is the first question. This fits into the category of something which is too big. How do I pay respect to India? So what do? We either have a national flag. So the whole notion of India is now reduced to a national flag now. And we do something to that. Or we have Bharat Mata ki ek photo hai. So we take the photo, maybe we do something. This is called Upasana. In fact, the science of Upasana lies here. So point here is, we seem to have solved the problem of, I cannot worship India by going length and breadth. It's too vast. It's a very impractical idea. So I did something. I brought a national flag. On 26th of January, we go and with all our fervor and devotion we do it. So this is one example we know. Another example, every puja that people do in this country, the Purohit will come and say, Asmin Haridra Bimbe, Sumukam Vigneshwaram Avahayami. Like that he will say. So he takes a small lump of turmeric, makes a small little triangle on that, keep it in front of you, and he says, I am now invoking Lord Ganesha there. This is called Upasana. Why? You know what you have done? Something which is inaccessible, you actually replaced it with something else now. And then Shodasopachara, everything is done to it. And after the puja is over, of course, we say Yathastanam Pratishtapayami. Let it go back to its original state. This is we do it very ritualistically. We don't even think about it. We do it very ritualistically. But think about this issue. We have found a way of accessing which is inaccessible. That is the spirit of that. We'll come to it a little later. So this is a second example which we all can relate one another with. Right? Take the third example. People do puja. Saligrama is used for Vishnu. Spatika is used for, Ishvara. Sonabhadra is a red color stone which is used for Ganesha. Like that there are some paddhatis. Sudarshana is there. Now what are you doing again? Like this turmeric, small little piece of turmeric. Now you are using a piece of stone. But the idol is a bigger version of it. Our ancestors have actually found a method. And in all these, we have replaced one with the other. And why did we replace? Because it was incomprehensible. Maybe it was too large, as in the case of worshipping a country. Or it was simply inaccessible. It may be there, but I cannot access it in some sense of the term. So we did all this. Now let's try to understand from these practices what do we learn. These are all we are doing very mechanically, without even thinking about, we do it as a part of our puja, vija and all that. Varalakshmi Varda, they just put a nice, gata, do alankara and invoke the Amman there and do puja. All that we keep doing. This is called Upasana. All of them come under the science of Upasana. Now let us understand the spirit of what is happening here. Actually, there are three things which are common to all these. The first thing is the object in which I want to either worship or contemplate or focus my attention, use whatever word you want to use, is not available directly. Whether it is India, whether it is Ganesha, whether it is Ishvara, whether it is Vishnu, it is same. The first step is the object on which I want to contemplate, worship, think, focus my attention is not available directly. That is the first message in all these common things. Second message, what do? We replace it with a symbol. That's why we use Om in meditation. We use Omkara. It's again a symbol. People use swastik. People use a dot. If you go to Brahma Kumaris, they use a white dot. That's all. So second step what we have done, we have replaced what we wanted to with a symbol. It's called Alambanam. The technical word is Alambanam, or an Adhisthana on which you actually trying to do something. So that is the second. Third, what we do is we deeply meditate on that symbol and visualize that original idea there. This is the spirit of the exercise. Whether we do it, we will have to ask. This is the spirit of the exercise. We are sidestepping a complex problem. We are saying it is inaccessible. Do I leave it? Don't leave it. Replace it with a symbol. See that here. That is truly called Upasana. So if somebody says Devi Upasaka, that means he is saying Devi in something else. So the very definition of Upasana, I will come to the definition. Now the question is, if you do deep meditation and contemplation on this symbol as a proxy to the original, correct? Then the question is, what will happen? That is a question that we will ask. And answer to that is very simple. That small little turmeric lump that we keep and call it as Ganesha, after the puja is over, we say Yathasthanam Pratishthapayami, but that turmeric powder is not like the same turmeric powder which you have it in the bottle from which you pulled it out. It has different perspective to it. You don't look at it the same way. There is one. Even more interesting. If you go to a temple, in fact in Sri Lanka I went to a temple which was a 11th century abandoned temple. You go to a temple which is in dilapidated condition, there is an idol inside, you don't see it as an idol, you see it as God. Very rarely people see it as, in fact when you go to a temple, hardly people see it as stone. Or if you go to Puri, Jagannatha, you don't see it as a sandalwood or something. Like nobody sees like, very rarely people see like that. They see the God there. So when you so what has happened now? You wanted to access something, you don't know, it's simply not accessible. You replaced it with another signal or a symbol. You deeply contemplated on it to such a level that the original actually came there. That is what we experience in a temple. Now why it is temple? Mahatma Gandhi's specs, if you put it on a Christie, or in a eBay or something, it will fetch $1 million. Mahatma Gandhi is gone, but the specs is still has all the effect of the original. They say Don Bradman's bat will fetch a few $1 million, Tendulkar's shirt will fetch $1 million. Because this is the principle of Upasana. This is the central idea of Upasana. When you contemplate on something, some other thing, this is as good as the other. That's why the bat is as valuable as, probably bat is more valuable than Tendulkar, I do not know. That is what is happening. So we have our own life experiences in this. So I am not saying hypothetical. I am using our life experiences and I am saying that we have unwittingly, knowingly sidestepped a complex problem and replaced it with something else. So that is called Upasana. Now, why do we need it? That is exactly what Upanishad needs to tell you before it gets into Brahma Tattva. Brahma Tattva, no point in talking. We should find a way by which that can be connected, that can be accessed, that can be thought about. So that is why in Taittiriya Upanishad there are different ways they have actually tried to help us understand, develop this proxy. What is Upasana? Upasana is proxy. You can't access the original. see the original and the proxy. That if we develop that practice, we will actually be able to solve some of the problems. Not all the problems, but some of the problems. So this is where the whole idea of all this is happening. Now, what happens in this process? If you ask, if we really set on this journey and do upasana, which means you wanted to think about something which is incomprehensible, inaccessible, not available, and so on, replace it with a symbol, see that here, and continuously think about it. That's how we actually started seeing that idol as God, not as a piece of stone. Because this process has gone in us. So I'm not saying something which we are not used to. I'm only using examples which we are used to. We have to only transfer that idea in many more domains. Now if we do it, three things will happen. What will happen in this process? Three things will happen. First thing is, just think about it. In meditation also they say the same thing. In meditation literature also what they say, even if you sit for meditation. See, some synonym for upasana is meditation in a different sense. If you sit and close your eyes, if we are really in the LKG of meditation, the whole world will run in front of you. The mind will really go all over the place. It will talk about what happened today morning, what is going to happen day after tomorrow, this result, that gentleman, this lady, my daughter, my son. This is what happens. So the first step in Rakesh Sharma, before he goes to the space, there are many steps. First step is he has to change his food habit. He started there. In the same way, the first step in any journey that you make, whether in the material world or in the spiritual world, this wandering mind has to be brought to some level. It cannot wander all over the place. This upasana is a wonderful tool for it. That is why they wanted to actually talk about it. Your mind cannot wander. With wandering mind you can do nothing. You will destroy yourself. That's what Krishna says. Uddaret atmana atmanam na atmanam avasadayet atmaiva bandhuhu atmanam atmaiva ripuratmanah. Your mind is your friend or foe. You have to make the choice. In other words, what he is saying is, mind control is all your success in material world and in spiritual world starts with mind. So upasana, first thing it will do is, a wandering mind will be brought into an inner circle of thought. What is the symbol doing? The symbol is taking out several other possibilities, and that's why they say look at the Om and do meditation and so on. First step that we need is, this wandering mind into 100 things must at least come to a narrow circle. So this symbol actually helps that. So a wandering mind is brought into an inner circle of limited thoughts to begin with. If we don't do this practice, we will go nowhere, whether material world or spiritual world. That is why in Taittiriya Upanishad first they want to talk about some technique. Techniques will look very alien to us because we are not the kind of people they were. So we have to look at the spirit. That's why I talk about upasana in great detail before looking at the meaning of those shlokas. Let's get the spirit of this, right? And over a period of time, just like we saw that idol to be nothing but God, never stone, until it was sculpted and lying in Balalaya, you will go and see it, you have a different perspective. Moment you do a mandala abhisheka, put it there and start seeing it repeatedly, the idea of stone will disappear and God will remain. Correct? So in the same way, over a period of time, whatever is the symbol we have taken as a proxy for the other, symbol will go and the other will come. The original will come. The symbol has to go to the background. That is a measure of whether we did the upasana properly or not. If we do it, the symbol will have to go to the background and the original must come in. That's what happened in a temple. The stone disappeared. We never see stone. We see only the God, because this upasana was happening to us. So this is the whole spirit of upasana, and that is what these shlokas. So here there is something called Samhita Upasana. Now I have defined what is Samhita. So there is Upasana and Samhita. That's why this section is called Samhita Upasana. Okay? So let us see what is Samhita. Samhita is a technical word in grammar, in Sanskrit grammar. So Samhita, as per Panini's sutra, I put the sutra, Parasannikarsham Samhita. That which is very, very close. Two letters cannot be any closer. Sandhi. If you put two letters together, that's all. You can't stick anymore. That condition is called Samhita. It's a technical definition. Samhita means that which is extreme juxtaposition. Parasanikarsha. Akarsha is attraction. Sannikarsha, parasanikarsha is called Samhita. Okay? In other words, Sandhi. Samhita is nothing but in Vedic text in Sanskrit you have the Sandhi. Correct? That is called Samhita. I have taken an example here. You know, the first mantra in Rigveda is Agnimi ile purohitam yajnasya deva mritvijam hota aram ratna dhatamam. That is the first available known mantras. First mantra in Rigveda is that. The second is starting with this. Ishetva urjetva vayavasto upayavasto. That's how it goes. Sreshtatamaya karmane. That's how it goes. That is the Pararpayetu Sreshtatamaya karmane, it will come. That is the first mantra in Yajurveda. Agna aya hibitaye granano havyadataye nihota sasya barhishi. That is in Samaveda. That is the first mantra. And Atharva Veda is Sanno Devi Rabishte Apo Bhavantu Pitaye Sanyo Rabisravantu. So I have taken Ishetva. I have taken that example. In fact, interestingly, when Alexander Graham Bell, found this phone apparently, he asked Max Muller to say something. Max Muller said, what is most fitting to be heard in this innovation first is Agnimile Purohitam. He actually uttered the first mantra of the Rigveda. Anyway, so this is the first mantra. I have taken this example because Sayana Bhasha actually has this. So, I took this. Look at here, Ishe plus Twa. Now we are talking of Sandhi. So Ishe has three. I, Sha and Ye. Make it Ishe. Twa is It, Va and A. It's a simple grammar. Now if you put both of them together and then create a Samhita, create a juxtaposition, only extra Tha will come. So it will become Ishe Twa. That is the rule of Sandhi. Now there are some technical words to describe this, because without this technical word we cannot understand any of these slokas. So that's why I just once we know the slokas become simple. So the terminating letter of the first pada is called Purva Rupa. Earlier, it's self-explanatory. So the A is the Purva Rupam. Okay, the first letter in the succeeding word which needs to be conjoined, that is called Uttara Rupam. So it is Ta here. Okay, and now we are trying to create a Sandhi. So the meeting place or the junction point, technical word is Sandhi. These are all simple words which we know anyway. Then when you do this Sandhi, if you look the Sandhi rule, sometimes something will go Lopa, some new letter will come, Visarga will become Okara, all these rules are there. So something happens in between. When the Purva Rupa and the Uttara Rupa comes into a Sandhi, some transformation of sorts will happen. That is called Sandhanam. It's a technical word. So in this case, Sandhanam is the extra Ta. When you try to put Ishe and Twa together, there is extra Ta we brought in. So that technical word is called Sandhanam. Now this Upasana says, what these rishis have done is, don't just recite all these Vedic mantras. Vedic mantras has a lot of such sandhis. He says, take a sandhi, samhita. Take a samhita, use that samhita to reflect on some bigger things. That is why it is called samhita upasana. So now the samhita has become a symbol on which you are going to reflect on something which is generally difficult for you to think about. So this is an LKG of this thought process we have to start. We develop this thought process to bigger levels, then we can see the Brahma Tattva. So this is a starter. So he says, you are so much used to the Vedic text, because those times, you have to think about those times. You are passed out of this Gurukula, you now know all these. So don't just look at only the meaning. Word and meaning, don't get carried away by that. Take a Sandhi. In that Sandhi there are four components. In the four components, you actually bring four larger principles and reflect on, meditate on it. That's why it is called Samhita Upasana. So the entire mantra is only saying, it's a simple mantra after this. After we get this far, now we can make sense of what the mantra is. So we will go through the mantra now. It's fairly straightforward for us to understand. It's only important for us to understand that the rishis are teaching us a fundamental mechanism, a skill that we need to develop. That is the message here. The message here is develop a skill. And what is the skill? Use a symbol and reflect on something. Only when you know how to do it, you will be able to reach what you cannot reach. That is what they are trying to communicate here. To reach an incomprehensible or inaccessible, you have to develop a method of using a symbol and contemplating something else on the symbol. If you deeply contemplate, symbol will disappear as much as stone disappeared and the god came. So that methodology is what they are actually, in the first chapter there are 4 or 5 different ways in which they have actually suggested. This being the first, this is called Samhita. There is a Pankta Upasana, there is a Omkara Upasana, 5 of them are there, 4 or 5 of them are there. We will see this and say how they are demonstrating this idea and say develop this thought. So we will now see the mantras. So basically Upasana is something which is approaching a thing, viewing it as something else. So you have to use a symbol. That's why you use a saligrama, you use a turmeric piece of turmeric lump, you use the national flag, use the Don Bradman's bat and think it is more than Don Bradman. So you use a thing but view it as something else, okay, and concentrate on this about that. So this should fade into the background slowly. So a state of concentration where whatever is meditated upon is completely identified and absorbed with the self. So symbols substitute the object if the original is inaccessible, which is the problem we have in our self journey. And also it is a chance to harness the wandering mind. The nice example they give is, instead of letting the cow generally graze, put now a peg, put a 2-meter thread on it. Now the circumference is only 2-meter radius. Think about like that. So the symbol and focusing on the symbol makes you forget about. In fact, I have been trying this seriously ever since last 15 days I am doing it. Little bit off and on I am trying. I am seeing that thoughts are narrowing very nicely. That is the idea. Whenever I see a sandhi, since I have been thinking about it, I thought of these 5 set of objects that they are talking. In the process, what I discovered was unnecessary thoughts have gone. That is the biggest value. Mind control will come how? You put a peg and then tie a small thread and leave the cow first. That's step 1. After some time, you can reduce the thread and remove the thread also one day. That is the idea. So let us look at the mantras, how they go about in Samhita Upasana. It starts with this, Sahanau Yashaha, Sahanau Brahma Varchasam. That's how it starts. Atata Sagumhitaya Upanishadam Vyakyasyamaha. So first it starts by now is we both. Now is actually the dual of I. So by now what is indicated is the student says, let the yashas let it come to me and to the teacher. Sahanau Yashaha. Sahanau Brahma Varchasam. Let the Brahma Varchas, let us be endowed of Brahma Varchas. Since there are 2, that's why Sahana Vavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu is teacher and taught. Now is duality. I and then V2, and then in Sanskrit you have the dual and the plural. So now is the dual of I. So may we both attain fame together. May we also get that Brahma Varcha. So this is a certain prayer which the student does, followed by the teacher saying something. He says Ata Ataha Ata Ataha Ata Ataha Sagumhita. See, Samhita, because of Hakar, these are all Vyakarana rules. Because Ha comes, if there are certain words come, the becomes Gum. In Yajurveda particularly, it doesn't happen in Rig Veda and so. So Sagumhita is Samhita. So Samhitayaha Upanishadam Vyakyasyamaha. So now I will tell you, here Upanishadam means meditation. I will tell you how do you meditate with Samhita. After all, when you read so many mantras, there are lots of sandhis. So why don't you use that opportunity to develop this skill? That's what he says. Therefore, hereafter, I will tell you how do you use this conjunction as a basis on which you can do the upasana. You can develop a meditative idea. That's what he says. Ata Ataha Samhitayaha Upanishadam Vyakyasyamaha. This is what the teacher says. He says, Panchasu adhikaraneshu. I will use 5 adhikaranas or 5 bases. I will use 5 bases with which I will teach you how to do it. Panchasu adhikaraneshu, Panchasu adhikaraneshu. And what are those? Adhilokam, Adhijyotisham, Adhividyam, Adhiprajam and Adhyatmam. Adi, the Upasarga Adi means Adhikritya. Lokam Adhikritya. Pertaining to the world I will use one method. So Adhilokam means that which pertains to the world. Lokam Adhikritya is called Adhilokam. It's a Upasarga. So Adhilokam. So I will use world, the concept of world, and teach you how to do this, develop this thought. Adhijyotisham. Jyotisham is our luminaries, those which are all emitting light. That's why astrology is called Jyotisham, because it is all about those which are all glittering on the sky. So here this Jyotisham is not astrology. Here the meaning is luminaries. So pertaining to luminaries, I will take another example and tell you how to develop that thought. That's the second example. Then it says Ati Vidyam, with the teaching. Vidya, I'll take the example of teaching and thought as one example. I'll again tell you how can you develop this thought of using one for the other and then develop this thought. Then Adhiprajam, progeny. I will use that as another example. That is the fourth. And Adhyatmam, I will use the body. Atma here, see Atma has different meaning. Uddaret Atmana Atmanam, Na Atmanam Avasade, there are 3 Atmas there. All the 3 has 3 different meaning. So we need to understand. Here Atma means body. Contextually we have to understand the meaning of that. They are all synonymously used. So I will take an example. So he says Panchasu adhikaraneshu. I will take 5 examples. One is world, another is luminaries, third is teaching, fourth is progeny, fifth is one's own body. I will now show you how you can develop this concept called Upasana. And he says Taha, these 5 are called Mahasamhitaha iti achakshate. People see it as the great conjunctions. Why? Because the 5 are great, as we will see. You see, what is interesting is Adhilokam starts with Anda, and then Adhyatma is Pinda. In other words, it starts with Samashti, comes up to Vyashti. That is how the ordering is. It starts with the universe and ends with an individual. So this is Vyashti, that is Samashti, or that is Anda and this is Pinda, and there are very nice things. So we are thinking of some great ideas just by using this grammatical concept of conjunction. So he is wanting to introduce the concept. How do you take a symbol and contemplate? I will take an example and show you. That is how it starts. So he takes 5 examples. So we'll see all the 5 examples. That is how this Anuvaka goes. Atadilokam, Prithvi Purva Rupam, Dev. So now we know the sign, the symbol. Symbol are 4 components: Purva Rupa, Uttara Rupa, Sandhi and Sandhanam. So whenever you see that, don't think about it. Think about something else. This is the training he is trying to impart now. Because only when we develop this thought, we will be able to do it ultimately for our reflecting on self. Because without this thought, we are not going to go. So he says, Ata, now, Adhilokam. Lokam Adhikritya. Pertaining to the worlds, now I will tell you. What are these 4 components? Moment you see a Sandhi, instead of looking at the Sandhi, think of this and then contemplate. You will actually think of some larger principles rather than get stuck with that. So that is where he is coming. So he says, so what are these 4 components? Prithvi Purva Rupam. Imagine the first letter of the ending letter of the first pada is Prithvi. So the ending letter of the first pada is a symbol for Prithvi. Prithvi is what you want to contemplate. It's too big for you, so now use this as a symbol. Use it. So he says Prithvi Purva Rupam, Devuhu Uttara Rupam, the heavens, the upper worlds. That is the first letter of the second. That's called Uttara Rupam in our definition. So whenever you see a Sandhi, whenever you see the following letter, think of the big worlds. Think this as a proxy for that. That's what he is saying. Okay? Akasha Sandhihi. Actually, they all also make a lot of figurative sense also if you look at. The one which connects, the real meeting point for the upper world and the lower world is the space. That's what he is saying. Akasha Sandhihi. The Sandhi is Akasha. And then he says Vayu Sandhanam. The real material which comes out of this whole conjunction that is happening is the air. So that creates a relationship between all these in some sense. So that is what he uses. So in this upasana itself there is one A upasana. There is a small upasana now. We can take a sandhi and then reflect on the heavens and the world. We can reflect on the bhumi. We can reflect on the interspace. We can reflect on the vayu. These are all great forces. They are all natures of the greatest order. We need to think about them. We need to reflect on them, for which he says use the symbol. Take a sandhi and then pura rupam, uttara rupam. That is what he is saying here. So he is saying develop that thought. If you can't develop this thought, you will go nowhere, because your ultimate thing is not available. Only this route you have to get it. So that is the first Pancha Adhikaraneshu. This is the first Adhikarana. Then he says Atati Jyotisham. Now let me talk about things pertaining to the luminaries. All those are, emitting light and shining and all that. He says Agni Purva Rupam. In the Purva Rupa, reflect on Agni. Agni is one source of luminary that we all can relate to. So he says Agni Purva Rupam. Aditya Uttara Rupam. He says on the Uttara Rupam, whenever you see Uttara Rupam, reflect on sun. Go from this vocabulary and words and go somewhere else. Think of that here all the time. So that is what he is saying. Aditya Uttara Rupam. Apasandhihi. In fact, physics, laws of physics all will also come into it. The whole water, all that is a function of heat. If heat is not there, water is not there. Because this whole melting, vaporizing, condensation cycle, if you see, they are all in a way related to heat. Heat is related to the luminaries. Such meanings are also, are all that they are all great forces on which you get excited about it and then see them here. Try to see them here, is what he is saying. So, Apasandhihi and Vidyut, Vaidyuta Santanam. The one which connects all these is lightning actually lands on the ground finally. It is one big connection between all these. The water, suspended water particles is where the lightning happens. So the water, the heat, all these are connected and the fallout of all of them is lightning. So all these large forces and all, why don't you look at there? If you develop your training like that, you are now understood a way of seeing something in something else. So second example he has taken is luminaries, which are all Jyotisham, all of them. He could have taken any, he has taken an example of, he needs 5 of them. For each of them he needs 4. He needs a Purva Rupam, he needs a Uttara Rupam, Sandhi and Sandhanam. Logically also it makes sense to put all of them together. But his idea is use this symbol and think about something else. That training, he says, develop this. Which means if you read this Upanishad, this part of the Upanishad, then if you want to contemplate, the only way by contemplating is not by knowing the meaning. That's of no use. The only way we have understood this Upanishad is we should take a sandhi and reflect on this and see what happens to me. That is very important. Meaning and all, you can take a book and read, and with this background, little bit of what it is, we have made it. Now what I am saying is, let's say I read this. Now it says as regards the meditation on there is an English meaning. That's not the meaning here. That's not the intent here. The intent here is, if you have really understood this, Atati Jyotisham Agni Purva Aditya Rupam, if you have understood what it really means, when you have understood it, you will take a word which is in Sandhi. In that word you will locate a Purva Rupa and a Uttara Rupa and the notion of a Sandhi and a Sandhanam. In that you will see this. You will intensely think like that. That's the meaning. Not the English meaning is what I am saying. That means we have really done Upasana. We have understood the spirit of what they are saying. If we read and understand, that is of no use. That means, intellectually we have figured out, but we have not understood the spirit of what it is. That's what I meant.
Why? What is the junction? Water is junction.
No. So many of these, this is again part of the Upanishadic language. Many a times you cannot use your logic. It's a very different way they try to explain. So we should not beyond a point go there. All that he's saying is, yes, Sandhi, a Samhita has 4 components. Why don't you reflect on these 4 and the 4 components? If you develop that training, you are ready to actually do many other things. You should not look at the logic. Logic is a very bad way of learning Upanishad.
Or is it because that some space comes here like that there is a...
No, wherever you can, little bit of logic you can connect, you try it, but generally don't try. The very spirit of that is, that's why Upanishadic is very different.
He just took 4.
He wants, that's why I said, it is not understanding the meaning in English, understanding by Anubhava. We must really take a Sandhi and spend 1 hour thinking about it. If we develop that kind of a thought, a time will come when we are ready for using something to think something else. That is the spirit of the whole exercise.
Okay, so he took 4 vast things and said, contemplated this like with these 4 vast things.
That is what they are actually suggesting here. Then he takes the whole, another example. He is giving 4 or 5 examples because you find out what is comfortable to you and do it. The idea is, in Vedic time, all these may be appealing. Today you may have to take a mouse and a, computer and something. I do not know what you need to take. The spirit is, that's why he has given 5 examples here. Because he says, whatever is very close to you, you should be able to fix your mind. You will be able to think. So he takes the idea of learning. Learning is another example. So in learning, there are 4 things involved. There is a teacher. So Acharya Purva Rupam. Then Antevasi. Antevasi is Yaha Ante Vasati Saha Antevasi in Gurukula, residential school. That is the meaning of Antevasi. Antevasi means he is with the Guru, stays there for 12 years and then learns his. Because that is the method there. So what we need to understand is a student. So student is the Uttara Rupa. And Vidya Sandhihi. Why do we get together? Because there is a transfer of knowledge which has happened. That connects, that is really creates a context for these. In some of them the logic seems to work. Not in all. So don't try. Wherever possible I am doing, but you don't have to. Take clue from there and try elsewhere. Because the spirit is different. Right? And Pravachanagum Sandhanam. The real outcome of that is Pravachanam. Otherwise, if the student is dead silent and the teacher is also dead silent, nothing is happening there. So the outcome of this whole exercise is Pravachana, which results in that transfer happening. Here the logic seems to fall in place. I am trying to use the logic. But the spirit is to think. Take the idea of learning and then use a symbol to think about the learning, the entities involved in the learning, the process of learning. That is the spirit of this Upasana. That is why if Rakesh Sharma was told on day 1, from tomorrow you can eat only about so many grams of food and only this to go to moon, it makes no sense to him. Yeah, he is not able to connect. At that level he will not be able to connect. It is anything but plain nonsense, because I don't know how it is going to happen. The same way, this is just a starter. We need to faithfully go it, because the spirit is not for you to master this. The spirit is to master a method by which you will use a symbol to think of something else. That is, so we should see only that spirit in all upasanas. He is taking different examples because whatever is convenient to us, we should start there. Different examples are being presented. So in one upasana itself, there are 5 possibilities now. 5 sub possibilities are there. Then he takes progeny. Progeny, I tell you, progeny, our understanding of this procreation process is very different. Completely different from the understanding of this procreation process as the Semitic religions have understood. Because if you read the prescription of the Bible, because the man and the woman got into this act, they fall into sin. That is the direction they have gone. This is the position they have taken. Whereas I have several quotations. Today I have brought only one quotation from Mahanarayana Upanishad. Our concept, in fact, of all the 4 ashramas, Sannyasa ashrama, Grihastha ashrama and Vanaprastha and Brahmacharya, top most credible ashrama is Grihastha ashrama. Without that, not possible. I'll just quote one example from Mahanarayana Upanishad, where it is there in the 79th mantra and 78th mantra, it is there. I'll bring. The point is, progeny is supposed to, in fact, in Taittiriya Upanishad, little later in this chapter, Prajatantum vyavachetsi, there is one. He says, don't cut the thread of progeny. We'll see it. A few classes down, we will see. Prajatantum ma vyavachetsi. There is one order given. Don't cut this thread. So progeny is, the purpose of progeny is very different. It is not a sensual pleasure of sorts or nothing of that kind. It has a very, very important purpose. So that is taken as one example here. So he says, if you take the process of progeny, Mata Purva Rupam, Pitottara Rupam, Prajasandhihi, and Prajananagum Sandhanam. The procreation process and the outcome of that, which is Praja, that is what are the four examples that they have actually taken in this, because we have a very different perspective on Grihasthashrama. That is why, in marriages, the person who is receiving Kanika Dana, he is worshipped like Mahavishnu. Puja is done to him. Why? He said that I am willing to get into this act because this act is so critical for sustenance of the society. It's a sustainability problem. It is not any other dimension. All others are incidental. It's a serious sustainability problem of what? Dharma. It is actually, that is why the wife is called Dharma Patni. In our, words, the Patni is actually called Dharma Patni, because without a wife and a husband, Dharma can never be propagated. Whatever you understand the word Dharma to be. It's impossible. Family is an institution. Brahmachari can do nothing. Sannyasi can do nothing. Sannyasi must depend on Grihasthashrama. Brahmachari must depend on Grihasthashrama. The society will crumble to pieces. That is our understanding of Grihasthashrama. Look at this shloka in Mahanarayana Upanishad. In fact, it's a nice, 78th, 9th mantra. Everything will end up, we say, Tasma, Dharmam, Paramam Vadanti, like that, Dhanam, Dharmam, so many of them will come. This is one paragraph on Prajana. So it says, Prajananam vai pratishta loke, sadhu prajayaha tantum tanvanaha, putranam anurano bhavati. Tateva tasyaha anrinam tasmat prajananam paramam vadanti. What he says in this mantra, look at here, he says, Prajananam vai pratishta loke. The stability, the establishment of this world as it goes on happens only because offsprings are gotten. If offsprings are not there, the whole thing will come to a tapering end. That's why he says, Prajananam vai pratishta loke. Sadhu praja. Good offsprings are very important for a continuance. See, we can't be so selfish. You can't say, I got the best knowledge, I enjoyed the best things, and that's the end of it. We have a responsibility. We will see it in Taittiriya Upanishad. In this chapter, the last half is so interesting. We will see that we have, Pancha Yajnas to be done. We have a responsibility to create offsprings and baton pass these ideas so that this world, as the divine order wishes it, the world must happen, continue. So sadhu prajaha are what? They are pratishtaha loke. They are the ones who establish, and he says, tantum tanvanaha. They are the one who continues this thread. The one who creates a progeny is tantum tanvanaha. He is creating another piece of the thread. The thread must go on. The thread must go on. That's what he says. And by doing that, what he says, Pitrinam anrinaha bhavati. Rina is there. I am responsible for my ancestors. They handed over good things to me. Unless I hand over, I am responsible for them. I am indebted to my ancestors. You can't be so selfish. Ancestors gave everything to me. That's okay with me. Fine. That's the end of the story. We can't say that. That's why he says, Pitrinam andrina bhavati. By getting offsprings, you are relieving yourself of the debt you owe to your ancestors. You have told your ancestors, you handed over good things to me. It is my. These are all the mantras in Vivaha. Vivaha mantra, you should see, there are wonderful mantras. Vivaha mantra says, I will take all these. I take a oath today, both of us take a oath today that we will cascade this dharma down. we will make this world sustainable. We take a oath today to do it. The Saptapati, each step, like these different things are being told. There are parts of Vivaha mantras, all these are told. That's why most of the Vivaha mantras are that all these gods come, and actually most of the Vivaha mantras are the gods coming and then wishing the two, because they took a very important step to cascade dharma. Most of the Vivaha mantras are only like that, if you understand the meaning of it. That is the most important thing. Tadeva tasyaha anirnam. This is how you get relieved of, you become relieved of your debt. Tasmat, therefore, prajananam paramam vadanti. It's ultimate. Progeny is one of the most important things that is to be done. So that is what is being said here in this particular. That's why procreation is taken as one step. People will ask, why are you taking procreation as one step? It's a very, very important thing. That's why they are mahasamhitaha. So the objects that are being used in Samhita for contemplation are big things. They communicate very big things about many things in life. Unless we get the spirit of it, this Samhita Upasana does not make sense. That's why the 5 are called Mahasamhitas. The universe is so large, the luminaries are so large, light which emanates from the sun reaches after 9 minutes. Some stars, they are dead long back, we are still seeing them blinking. That is the vastness which we should think when we do this upasana. It's not stars. We should think about the creation process, which is so beautiful, so vast. We are nothing in front of it. All that feeling must come. When we do this one sandhi and then replace the 4 with these 4 items and reflect and contemplate on it, we should be able to go there. That is the spirit of all these. So, progeny. Then I will take one more and then we will continue in the next class. Then Adhyatmam. Then he says, now I will come to the Pinda. I will come to the Vyashti. A unit let us take. If you can't think of that, I will take one example here. So he says, Adarahanu Purva Rupam. Ada is below, Uttara is above. Hanu is actually Ja. See, Hanuman is called Hanuman, Buddhiman we say. It's called Mat Pratyaya. In Sanskrit, it is called Mat Pratyaya. If somebody is endowed with only that, then you have to use Mat Pratyaya. Bhagavan also comes like that. He has nothing but Bhaga. That's why he is called Bhagavan. So Hanuman is with the pronouns Ja. That's why he is called Hanuman. Hanu means Ja. So here it says Adara Hanu Purva Rupam. He is taking only the mouth as an example, although he said body. He has taken the mouth as an example. And he says the lower jaw is the Purva Rupa, the upper jaw is the Uttara Rupa, Uttarahanu Uttara Rupam, Vak Sandhihi. When this jaw starts moving, Siksham Vyakyasyama Varnaswara, we saw all that from guttural and labal and labial and all that. Vak Sandhihi and Jikhva Sandhanam. It is the tongue. So this combination is being used to explain. So from a very big concept of universe, they have given 5 different examples which comes to an individual unit, and again they have taken 4 examples from that. So the spirit is not about examples. The spirit is not understanding the meaning of the shloka. The spirit is to do the upasana, because this is the first step to actually reduce the wandering of the mind and develop a skill in which we know how to use something else to think of something else. Because that is the baby step that is being proposed here. And there is one more mantra which is the Pala, if you do this, which we will see in the next continue. Again, next week I am traveling. It so happened that 1 or 2 I have unwittingly agreed. So we will meet the week after next, which is 23rd of February we will meet. 16th February, I have a train at 7, so I have to leave at 5. There's no way I can take this class. Yeah? Okay.